Hey Josh, how's it going?
I'm good, one. How are you?
Good. Did you guys have a chance to catch up?
No, we haven't.
Josh, so this is Mike. It's our founder. He works really closely with me on email, or I work closely with him, and we've been trying to revive Outbound, as we talked about on our last call. And
Hmm.
I think we thought it made sense as we were experimenting with Clay to have another call with you just to, kind of show you what we're doing and what we're thinking going forward. But I'm also realizing that there seems to be a game here where you kind of have to be strategic with how you manage your clay credits and build out your table strategically. Um, and then I'm also kind of testing the limitations of like the different AI tools that are here and like what they can do, what they can't do, and what might be relevant for video. So I kind of wanted to share what we are testing and then kind of get your thoughts on, what you think might work for us
Okay,
and go from there.
sounds good.
Cool. So I think you had shown me some stuff last time where, you've done work for video production companies and you've had successful campaigns with them. When it came to research, like client research, what was the or lead research, what were kind of the key things that were used to create those templates that you showed me? Because I was experimenting with columns that were pooling things like, LinkedIn summaries, whether or not someone has a video on the website, um, what was the last activity on their YouTube channel, what their college is, just to pull things that, might help us make a personalized email. But I wanted to see if you had any suggestions on things that might work for our sector.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the board, Juan. I mean, part of it is just conscious choices of where you want to focus, right? So you could say, look, in the very beginning, you guys obviously have clients, you know what industries you've had the most success with, and in the choice of how you're going to do targeting, for example, is it I'm trying to go into markets that I've never been into? Is it I'm trying to work in industries that could be new industries for us? And a lot of that is really dependent on like what purely is the offer, right? Like I've run campaigns for multiple different video agencies where, sometimes they're trying to sell like a kind of a one-off done for you type video, maybe for an ad or maybe to put on the website. In other cases, it's more of a like we'll create this many videos for you for a flat fee. And other times it's, we're gonna do more like hosted video services where we're doing, like events and stuff like that. So I think part of it comes down to making the choice of where the focus is, right? Because you can make the argument almost any company in the world could use video services, right? We could all have better websites with better, even me, better videos, right? Or we're going to have an event, so we want to promote that, right? So I think it comes down to in the beginning, what is going to be the focus? Because to your question, Juan, the specifics around what personalization you're going to incorporate into the email are directly relative to the choice you're going to make, right? So if I say, for you guys, we're really good at Clum when it comes to this type of industry, then maybe the approach in that aspect is going to be I'm going to pull a lookalike audience and use technical data to find a whole bunch of companies that are similar to our best customers where that pay us the most amount of money. And so that's a technical approach that's dramatically different than going in and pulling a campaign and trying to reference some variable of their LinkedIn because they happen to be, a chief marketing officer who's the most likely person to make the decision on whether they're going to spend money on video. Does that make sense?
It does. So I have a few questions. So are
Yeah.
you finding leads with Clay or are you uploading a database into Clay to be enriched?
All of the above, right? So for some clients, we'll pull, so native within Clay. Probably the most powerful, cost-effective tool that's built into Clay is the ability to pull companies and people in LinkedIn, right? So depending on what plan you're on, I'm never lower than the 350 a month plan because we use APIs on everything, and you can't run an API call unless you're on the $350 a month plan. But
Mhm.
if you're at the 800 plan, which is what you have to be on to integrate to any CRM, right? So for most of our instances, we're on the $800 a month plan because we put data like in HubSpot or Salesforce, right? But on the 800 a month plan, you're going to get 50,000 um, credits, and you're also going to be able to import 50,000 companies and or 50,000 people for free from LinkedIn directly into Clay. So that gets you a good start because similar to like Apollo or Zoom Info, you're able to filter down into the demographics of at least pulling all the chief marketing officers in, a given niche, or being able to pull companies that are, between 100 and 500 employees that are in this industry, et cetera. Like a lot of the basics of what you would get if you had a big Apollo plan, for example, right? So at least you
Mhm.
can get to the companies and the people. What it doesn't get you is the email addresses, right? And so that's where you have to get into, if I pull a list of 20,000 companies and then drill down into the roles in those companies. So let's just say chief sales officer, chief marketing officer, et cetera. That list may end up being 6,000 people. That's free if you're on the $800 a month plan. But then you still have to go out and find emails, right? So that list of 6,000 may end up being only like 3,000 people once I verify, pull emails and then verify them. But those are the different enrichments that are built into Clay. What you're probably doing, I would guess, one is you're using Clay credits to do all that, and that gets very, very expensive. What we do is we use providers that we know can find emails really, really well, and we make API calls to those providers. So instead of paying Clay credits, we buy bulk plans through ICPS, through LeadMagic, through Wizza, which are some of those, Prospea are the four we use, and we call them directly via API. And so anything that you're calling via API is going to be exponentially cheaper than paying Clay credits.
And so you said that the company names and the email or the emails we would pull in that way, but the company names and the contact URLs, that's a free component?
Yeah, let me show you. I mean, let's get in there and make sure that you can actually see it. So let's just say I created this table from scratch, and I just said new, and this is recording, so I'll send you this recording as well afterwards, More.
Mhm.
So I hit new workbook, and you see right here where it says find people, find companies.
Yeah.
So I can do it either this way, or I can just create a new blank table, either way. But up here, you have the ability. You can do it through the manual enrichments, but I like to use the actions menu here. And you see where it says find companies, find people. So
Yeah.
either what I teach people to do is first you want to find the companies because that's how you're going to drill down into the types of industries and everything that you want. So you see here, this is your normal drop downs like industry types. So let's just do, we'll pick one, consumer electronics. And then you can exclude industries, company size. These are all your typical sales nav, LinkedIn demographics. Location, city. So we'll just pick Arizona, where I'm at. And then you can even exclude companies. So, like if you have a table that has people you've already reached out to, you can exclude those through that.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's cool.
And do you see how it says 50,000 max record per search?
Yes.
So this number goes down depending on what plan you're on. So it's 25,000 if you're on the 350 a month plan. I think it's like maybe 10,000 or less if you're on the $99 a month plan. But you
Okay.
can preview depending on what filters you set. You just hit preview, and it's going to take a second to load. But then you can drop these companies right in a table. So we'll do that real quick.
And are your tables, I saw you talked about there being like a table that you would use for suppression. Are your tables separated by, um kind of like use cases of outreach, like, hey, we're going to reach out to people who attended this college, we'll keep them all on one table? Or do you have like a master table where your different flows that are personalized would exist there?
Oh yeah, there every table is 100% unique. So I'll show you. I'll get out of this for a second to show you. So
The table
we,
align with like a particular campaign type that you're putting into instantly. So you create a table. What's usually your logic for different types of tables?
the campaigns we're
So
running.
if let's
So
say you want to have a certain campaign towards like, CMOs in the credit union space, you would have a table focused on that.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you
And
do
then yeah,
like we just launched this one, what you see on the screen, FOMO AI. So we do it by campaign, right? So every campaign we build, which traditionally is like a 6-day sequence that we're sending outbound emails on. And then within each table, we're going to make conscious choices around what type of leads we focus on, what type of um, outbound we do. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I also noticed that when you send, we're using Instantly, and I tested sending a couple leads over to Instantly, and it
Mm-hmm.
allows me to pick a campaign to send them to. I can't send them to separate campaigns in that same column. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, you can only send them to an individual campaign. What I would do in scenarios like that, like here's one where we're running the instantly right here. I would just duplicate this and put it in a separate column and then label it like campaign one, campaign two. And then here's what you were talking about where you can choose multiple
Okay.
campaigns. And
Yeah.
if you want to randomize it, you can even come in here and you can do a round robin in Clay. See this round robin function?
Hmm.
So you can, like, let's say you had four of these, four instantly campaigns. You could just round robin. So you do like A, B, C, D. That's a weird A that I put in there, but and then what this will do, if you run this with the leads, I'll just run 10 rows to show you. It'll randomize the A, B, C, and D, and then you make these, like, let's just say this was campaign A and B. You make it conditional based on the output of this. So you say
Oh,
only run if A. That makes sense down here.
it does.
Yeah. So that's how you can, and we do that a lot where we'll run. I don't like to run A/B tests in the same campaign unless it's like a subject line variable. If it's like different copy, different leads. I like to run them in different campaigns because then you can see the statistics of just that and instantly versus trying to figure it out all out in one campaign. So I do this a lot where I'll ABCD it like here, and then I'll just randomly drop it into one of the instantly campaigns.
So you use that for subject lines then?
Not as much subject lines. Subject lines, like let me pull up and show you. Like subject lines are
Oh,
pretty easy.
I thought that's what you were saying. I thought so. What's a situation where you would use the round robin? So for different, you want different leads in different campaigns, is what you're saying, based on a condition.
Yeah, like here, let me show you. So let me actually pull up one where I have subject line testing. So I'll give you an example. Like here, it's really see how it's really easy to see subject line testing.
Hmm.
I don't know why this box is bothering me. Let's just say last 7 days. So it's really easy. You can tell right here, I'm testing a subject line, and that's the only difference in there. So I'll do subject line testing in the same campaign because it's really easy to see the data on that. And that's
Hmm.
all I change between A and B here. It's not easy to see if you're doing different lead types, different copy types. Does that make sense? It's not
It
as
does.
easy. So that's why I split all of that. So this campaign is a perfect example where I'm running pretty much the same copy, but I'm running one to international leads, one to US, but I'm split testing the subject lines within the campaign, but I'm not split testing the lead types. They're split between two different campaigns.
Gotcha. And I see. So, and the for hyper personalization, I mean, I know that on the campaign example that you had shared on the call last time, every email was pretty much unique. Is that the
Uh-huh.
case for just about all your campaigns?
Yeah, this is an investor campaign, super unique. So it's not on this one, but let me pull up like an example. So this is these are actual video campaigns that we run. And so I'll just give you, like if you go into the sequences, this is how our sequence is set up. And it's because you see where it says personalization there. This
Yes.
is all injected with clay table AI. So it's a little slow. You'll see when it loads. It's unique.
And then
And always,
there's a spin tax on the unsubscribe footer there.
yeah, that's really the only place I use Spintax anymore. Let me just show you in the lead. I don't know why instantly display is slow, but if you look at the copy on these, like here's the copy for that. A lot, very, very unique. So if I go to, you can see how it's referencing this is a video campaign, referencing their company. If I go to the next one, totally different.
Do you find that oh, so you're using Octave to write these templates?
Yeah, I mean, I use Octave for most of them. For some of them, I like to experiment a lot. So we'll try different models. Like I've been using Claude 3.7 that just came out a few weeks ago, testing some stuff there. But the vast majority of everything we do is through Octave. Yeah.
And is there why I mean I know you guys are friends, but is there anything about Octave that you really like?
Um, for organized go-to-market unique messaging on every single email, there's just no better tool on the market. I mean, it's not that we're just friends. We're only friends because I pay them $3,000 a month to use their tool. Um, so it's not like, it's not one of those where it's like we became friends because I became a customer and kind of believe in the product, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll show you why. Like, so full transparency, I have 500,000 credits. That's what $3,000 a month buys you. But this is why. Like, I'll show you. And this just came out.
And you're like you worked in AI, so you have experience prompting. But in my case, when I look at Octave, the first thing I thought was like, oh wow, this I see some opportunities to like uh I don't have to be a prompt engineer per se as much to kind of get something hyper personalized. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, especially now, because as of last week, they launched their new agents, and you're seeing it on the screen. And so it's a lot of different choices around. I mean, so the backbone of Octave is you go in, you spend 15, 30 minutes building out a playbook about your company. And then it has a lot of information. You can upload Google Docs, whatever, right? But it has a lot of information. It's also smart enough to understand the value and the pain points of what you're offering through video to the leads that you're offering it to. So like it'll incorporate that research. And then you build an agent on top of those playbooks. And these are the choices you can make, like reading level, tone. You know, are you speaking to pain points or benefits? Length of your email, average sentences, average paragraphs, methodology, focus, pain points, benefits, type of call to action you want to use. Right. So this is basically all the shit that I would have prompted into Juan for the last year and a half,
Yeah.
broken down into choices of boxes that I can now utilize. But the beauty of it is I can come in and utilize all these options that I've been given, but I'm also able to put in my own custom instructions. So if I still want to prompt my way through creating even more unique content than what this agent will create, then I'm able to do that. But when you build this, as I'm building and making these choices, I can test this content on real profiles, right? So I can put your profile in there and see exactly what the email would have been created if I sent it to you. And
Oh,
so
that's right.
as we build these agents, right, I can do 3 or 4 and go, okay, I like the output of this copy. And just remember, it's always going to dynamically adjust to the lead that I'm reaching out to and the playbooks that I've chosen. That makes sense?
It
So it's
does.
always going to be armed with all of that knowledge about your business, except it's going to go out and do research through their LinkedIn profile and speak to very personalized stuff. And that's what's different about what you said in the beginning, where it's like, it's not going to just go reference like a basic, hey, I saw you're the chief marketing officer at vibe.com. It's going to correlate their pain points to why video would solve them.
And
Yeah,
so when
I think maybe this is my problem sometimes with some of this stuff is that like we are a video, maybe it's just I'm overly skeptical and whatever, but we didn't invent video, right? Like video is not our product. We're a video service. The same way if we were selling photography services, selling someone on the benefits of photography, it's kind of like, you know, it's the same way like if I'm an accounting firm, right? What's my offer if I'm an accounting firm? Well, I'm an accounting firm. I'm trying to find people that are sick of their current accountant and sort of, I'm just a good accounting firm. There's massive accounting firms that don't really have an offer. And I feel like a lot of the problem with some of this messaging and like it's assuming that there's a product that has an offer versus a professional service that is, maybe taking a less, we don't reduce your costs on video. We don't, you know, grow your business through video. We provide a video service for those who need a video vendor, right? And I feel like some of these, for particularly the Octave or the Octane or whatever it's called, I feel like sometimes it's, historically our approach has been like, all right, try to reach as many people as possible under the assumption that a certain amount of people need a video vendor because the same way companies need sign services, right? A certain type of company is growing and need a sign for their business. But like, what's your offer on a sign? I mean, it's not much, right? I mean, it's like trying to find companies that have retail locations that are growing. You know what I mean? We make good signs. Do you need a sign vendor? So Lemon Light, perhaps, I know they tried to spin up like a platform, so maybe they're like pitching a product that is like, hey, we're streamlining your video services into one sort of centralized platform or something like that. So I don't know. That's been kind of my issue, where like a lot of the messaging and different decision makers and the offer, you're insinuating that in some way you're selling them on what the value of video is. And in reality, I feel like that's kind of like just not. It's kind of juvenile to the thing we're trying to do, which is just to like reach people that yes, they already understand that video. Like you're talking to people that like are spending $50,000 or $100,000 a year on video. We didn't, you know what I mean? It's not like we are the first since 2001 and we're like trying to sell people on doing videos on your website. In which case, you could explain to them the value of what video does for their business. But I have a hard time sometimes like with the output of these versus so what are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's maybe a business strategy problem. We're like, hey, maybe we have to spin up some better business. But I think there's a lot of businesses that don't have necessarily some type of offer. It's just that they're good at reaching people.
No, it's a great question. I mean, so there's a couple variables there, right? Number one is volume negates luck. So, at the end of the day, you send enough emails, you're going to benefit from the fact that someone just fired their video vendor. They got pissed off by their last video vendor, or their boss just came to them yesterday and says, I want a video for this, right? And volume helps with that. And there's no sales per se benefit argument you make there, Mike. It's just purely like good timing. And that helps. Sure. And you guys know that from your experience in sending a lot of emails. I think what's changed, and we've seen this, across these long running campaigns, is two things. 90% of the people that do cold outbound today in this business, they don't hit the inbox. So that's the biggest thing, right? And so at the end of the day, if I could tell you what our biggest benefit from Octave is that highly personalized, unique messaging. That's the secret sauce, right? It's not that we say something that's so powerful that I think converts more than if I built it myself.
You just really think it's more like a deliverability
I think it's deliverability,
Just
uniqueness. I've sent 10 million emails in the last year, and all 10 million have been 100% unique. And I
that makes
average
sense.
97, 98%
And
inbox
there's no way
placement.
to do that without, I mean, don't you get between spin tags and then like merge tags from like a unique sentence? Don't you get too unique that you're essentially unique? Does it really need every single absolute email up and down to be unique?
It's a fair question. I do run campaigns that get the best answer to that question is if your offer is so good that inevitably you're going to get 10 to 15% reply rates because that's how big of a pain point you're solving. Video is not one of those,
For
unfortunately.
sure. We're not like a
But
VC firm like, hey, we'd like to invest in your company. I mean, like,
yeah,
yeah, you're
that's
gonna
a
get a
great
lot of
example.
replies,
You get a
right?
lot of
Like
replies. And if you get
it's
a
like, oh
lot of
yeah, I'll take a
replies,
call or I'll, but this
yeah,
like video is like we're like business cards. We're
yeah.
posters, we're maybe almost a website vendor, but probably right there where it's like, yeah, I mean, they're in the market or I'm not, or like maybe you've done some work in some super adjacent industry. I'll keep you on file. But like you're not introducing anything new to me because unfortunately I didn't invent, cameras or so, like so in
But I
which
think you
case,
have to
yeah,
be one or the other, honestly. I mean, you have to
yeah,
be 100% unique on your messaging or you're in spam, or your
yeah.
reply rates have to be so high that Google and Microsoft don't care.
You're kind of claiming that the value of because right now we're about like 1%, right? We're getting a 1% reply rate, scaling up our emails. We're using a fuck ton of spin tax
Yeah.
and a fuck ton of maximum amount of steps or maximum amount of like variables, maximum amount of spin tax, tons of different campaigns. Probably getting to the point that statistically every email is maybe technically unique, but structurally a lot of them probably do. If there was some sophisticated Google algorithm or Microsoft algorithm, they would probably know, you know.
There is, just
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
know. I
yeah,
mean,
for sure, for sure.
my background's data science, so that's part of, and I've shared some actual documents, and to simplify it, it's just it's visual recognition of the formatting and the styles of the email, which is
Yeah,
beyond. It's called computer imaging when it comes to data science and AI, and it's
sure.
that is what has probably had the most impact on spam reporting in over the last 6 months.
So you think like the actual at scale, the value of Octave. Now you can't do what Octave does. Like I can't use Clay to create the whole email and push it to instantly. Like I need.
Oh, yeah, absolutely you can. No, I would say so to differentiate or clarify that. I use Octave at scale more for our ability to iterate campaign to campaign, week to week, and not having to be the one responsible for testing every single model and its iteration and capabilities that come out every 2 weeks, right? Between Claude and OpenAI and Grok. And I benefit from, a highly trained Google, engineer who is the backbone of Octave that does all that for us. And I pay to some extent for that convenience, right? Of having a format like you see on the screen where I can still make enough choices to create enough unique variation and get results versus having to test every single model as it comes out. Because as they come out, they're getting better, they're getting more conversational. But GPT 4.5, if I were, which is I think the most conversation model on the planet that's been out about 2 weeks, it costs 7 cents a row to run it in Clay.
So in order to populate Clay, you're saying, or like get Clay to populate instantly with a completely custom email from scratch. You're saying you kind of have to be like an expert chat GPT user.
By far.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not just chat. You would have to understand the components of calling the APIs individually and then prompting into
Understood.
those
Okay.
models and test it. And because you still deal with real
Yeah,
world
I guess my gripe with
hallucinations.
Octave, Juan, I guess was just be us getting into using it, was that like at face value, we would have to put in information that was much less. I think some of the output of Clay or some of the output of Octave, what I've seen, even just those few emails you showed me, and maybe it's relevant for Lemon Light, but it's wording this like, I think it almost words it a little bit too aggressive. I mean, you could probably prompt it and whatever, and maybe you're just showing me some random example, but like, we would have to be thoughtful on as to what we put into as like our offer, where it's not worded so pointed in such a way that I'm emailing someone trying to sell them on video. Because in some ways that just gets in the way, because really we just want to email people for the most part saying like, hey, we think we're a good fit, or like, can we connect? I mean, ultimately, because that's more appropriate to what we actually provide versus like, did you know video is better? You know, it's like, all right, this, you know, someone wants to take my photos. I don't need to be, you know, you know, you could talk to me in a certain way that is a little bit more sophisticated and not sort of like a direct response advertisement for photography, you know. And I think we just have to be mindful as to what is our actual offer, if and to the extent there is an offer, that it's sort of not, it's not dumbed down to like a point where it doesn't, it's not how why we would talk about, you know, the service. So but a lot of the use cases that are shown are perhaps for like a SaaS product that's a live chat feature that gets AI live chat that's 10% faster than humans and that can do 24/7. Like something like that has like 5 bullet points of the offer, and then like spinning that into then different decision makers probably is applicable. I don't know how. We'd have to really like look at like, all right, you know, is there, you know, what does that look like for us? I mean, there's probably a little bit of difference of how I would email a CMO and a marketing coordinator, but it's not, it's slight differences. And the offer is much more sort of behind the, you know, not as, you know, apparent, I guess.
And I think it might too, it comes down to the campaign choices, right? So, you know, as well, like I don't use Octave for everything, you know, like the table I have on the screen, I'm using Octave agents to create the initial copy and then coming back afterwards and trying to adjust it, if you can see that, to make it more humanistic, right? To drill down. So we try, and, you know, it's all about getting replies and results, right? So we try different things continuously, because it's, you know, these models are changing all the time, right? The deliverability models are getting tougher, but it doesn't negate what you said, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I still think of it as 80% of this is right timing to the right person,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
and the other 20% is the messaging. Where we don't deviate is I just don't do any of the gimmicky crap. It's all just meant to, in some way, professionally say, I did a little bit of research on you, and here's why I think you could use our services.
And so the gimmicky crap you kind of think is like, hey, last week I saw you posted about cats, and I'm also into cats. Hey, do you need like kind of more like social
I mean,
posts and things like that?
yeah, speaking, you know, good intent signals, good personalization, good correlation to, you know, why they're a good fit for your product. Exactly. The gimmicky stuff, you know, it's the same emails that make me cringe when I get them. I try not to send those. Offering value, you know, can I spend some time looking at your past videos and see how we can help you make them better? You know, it's something.
Yeah,
Even
hey,
if it,
actually, I honestly, that's random. You pop off the top of your head, but that's actually a good statement. We usually say like, can I send some examples? But like, even getting permission to put some work in, I feel like that's a good positioning. I know you're just probably bullshitting saying things, but you know, it's probably a fresh view. I've never really considered to put that in.
I just try to remember it's still people talking to people, and
Yeah.
we're all busy. I mean, the good news is most of the cold emails we're getting aren't hitting the inbox, but the other side of it is if I'm going to send a cold email, I want to leave that impression that, okay, even if now is not a good time, when they need video in 3 months, they're going back to that email they saved because they're like, hey, I want to reach out to this guy if ever needs.
Yeah.
Because 97% of people don't, well, in your case, 99% of people don't even reply, right?
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
a lot of opportunity for impression.
What did you find with Lemon Light? I mean, they are just they, they maybe people. I've always like rolled my eyes at like the platform stuff, and I never. I started some other businesses and whatever, so maybe I just and whatever. But what was their reply rate? You know, like I'm just curious because I've always like I've never met anyone in video that actually, you know, I knew if I was like a private equity company or whatever, you can just it's so like I've gotten so many replies and I'm reaching out to invest in different things or whatever, like booking people on podcasts. It's like it's not comparable. So I've never had anybody to compare like one to one to because it's like emailing about a video service versus emailing about some very special offer in sub niche industry where I do work for or like investing. With Lemon Light, did you find because we've always had about a 1% reply rate on just kind of like general campaign emails with good tech structure, good warmed up accounts, like the whole kind of standard, no like personalization, but maybe like some basic Zoom info personalization from like, hey, if they're in the credit union space, we'll put them into the credit union campaign, throw a bunch of spin tags. We've gotten like the 1% reply rate there.
Mm.
With Lemon Light or other videos, how what using that as a benchmark? I mean, I think Juan was mentioning you were up to the 2 or 3% reply rate. Do you
Yeah.
find that like the customization is the distinction between because right now I wouldn't say email's like not working for us. Like even today, we're getting strong reply rates. Today we're ramping up. We're on the or for us strong, I would say 1%, which has historically been good for us. Now we're sending way less volume, so maybe we do probably need to get to the 2 or 3%. But and we're not sending links like we used to, so a lot of the back and forth kind of slows down our ability to set opportunities. Back in the day, we just send links and people would just come back. Yeah, nice work. Let's set up a call. So I guess like we could probably sit pretty right now and just keep doing what we're doing. Maybe there are some risks in doing that because of Google and Outlook changes the same way that risk would be whatever. So you do feel like like Clay and Octave that what's the benchmark against 1% that you would kind of push us towards thinking around, right? Like, did you come in at a Lemon Light and take them from a 1 to a 3? Were they always kind of at 3? Like what I've never met anyone that's actually sent cold emails for video services. So like it's just
No,
it's like
it's a fair question. So I took them from 0.1% to about 2.5 is where we've averaged over the last 6 months, right?
so at point were they 0.1? We were 0.1. We used to be 1 and then we dropped to 0.1 after the 20.
They were a point. Yeah, they were a 0.1. Just to not cut you off.
They were
They were
always at 0.1. There's no way.
No, they were at like 3 or 4%, and
And
then
then they dropped.
the sky fell out because they were
Same
doing
shit happened.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We were sending 100 emails per day per account. We were sending links.
yeah.
We were
And
emailing Outlook and Gmail, like, and we've gotten back to the 1%. So, but you were able to take them from 0.1 up to 3.
2.5 is
Two
where
and
we
okay, up to 2.5. All right. So for us, if we're at 1 right now, you think right now we have the opportunities in front of us to move to that 2.5 are probably Clay, like how much, let's say we're sending 10,000 emails a day. I mean, is it safe to say that like, how would we think about like how many of those 10,000 would be Clay and Octave using Clay and Octave? Is it all of them, or is it realistic to like, hey, there are some just data that doesn't connect, and this is part of like a general just instantly Zoom info to instantly standard shit 1%, or do you feel that like every email out the door can use Clay and Octave, and that the cost benefit is there?
I mean, for me, they measured us on a 300% ROI expectation.
Okay.
So if you can, I mean, on average, we book them 150, 200 meetings a month.
Okay.
Right. And so I don't know how many of those they were actually closing. I could see how many were being set.
Yeah, they're probably closing 10%. And
Yeah.
that's where we were at our scale. What if we did this? Our like Juan's full time. He's been like started with me when I was setting 10 emails a day. We scaled up through Mixmax, started setting 150 a day. Pretty much set 150 opportunities a month for probably about 4 years. Basically doing Zoom info to Mixmax. And then once we eventually moved off Mixmax to like our own custom Instantly, because I didn't know Instantly existed. So I paid this developer to basically make Instantly, not knowing
Yeah.
I was just too stupid and busy to Google shit. And by the time I built half of it, I was too invested into keeping my custom software to like abandon it because I was already paying the guy like 30K a month to basically run Instantly in house. What if it sounds like we're not going to like a lot of this? Do you have a hybrid model where like we could get going, we get some like, it sounds like this is going to take some iterations of conversations. I think we have the knowledge, the focus to do this in house. We know quite a bit. It's just some of these tools probably need some iteration to it. And do you have like kind of an ongoing consulting model, even if it like we did an hour a week, once a week, or two, something that was like, hey, we're gonna go for 2 or 3 months, pay you a few grand a month or something like that. Where like just so that we don't, we just have a sounding board consistently, because it's easy to kind of have this quick one-off hour-long strategic call where we're like, all right, well, let's customize our emails. But like, it would be really cool to, tap into this maybe once a week, or just here and there, knowing that we're executing. We know a lot about execution. We've grew it, built it up, let it collapse, learned everything, So I guess, where do you stand on something like that? Because I feel like I'm excited to move forward and just kind of get Clay integrated and get sort of, probably even Octave. But I don't, it would be cool if we could have just someone to reach consistently to answer questions or whatever. And obviously you got to get compensated for that. I mean, you're getting paid for this time right now, me talking at you. Every word I say costs me probably 4 pennies. So I really love the sound of my voice. Anyways, so yeah, what's your take there? Because I think they're like, shit, if you can kind of help us sustain, looking back, the problem is we had a really good like developer type of guy, but he didn't know shit about email. So like we would develop shit and he would just be fucking, it would like, one, looking back, like if we just paid this guy that we're on the call with right now, fucking X thousand a month, or just,
Oh
just
yeah. Well,
pay
it's
him
just we had
250
to
for
learn.
calls. Yeah.
We learned the best practices, all the best practices the hard way on our own before there were a lot of blogs about them, and it was just a nightmare. So I think,
Yeah. And like, yeah.
yeah,
So I guess, would there be a world where like we could just book calls with you as we need? We just could pay 250 here or there. And then it's just like, because right now it's like we're at that 1%, but like I want to just keep finding little hacks that get me to that 1.5 to 2.5. And then like, as you see changes in the space, we're just kind of up ahead of it. I don't really need you unless like Juan quit, or like at that point, I have other companies I make most of my money. I fucking move on from this shit. But I don't really need like any execution. I think, but like it's a good model. We just kind of just book a call as we need and just like keep ongoing. Like, hey, this is what we did this last week, or hey, it's been 2 weeks. This is the updates here. And you could kind of just throw out ideas and keep kind of like giving different feedback. Cause right now, like we haven't got started with any of the Clay stuff. And I think the intention is we would get started, but it would be cool to have someone just kind of be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I think that's some bullshit. Yeah, change that, and just like we could keep refining.
Yeah, so we do it two ways. I mean, the link that you booked on one, I mean, that's always open. So you just book whenever you want, 250 per call. If you want to be more, you know, serious, intentional, we do 2,500 a month, gives you 10 hours, gives you a Slack channel to my 3 Clay engineers and my 3 people who run our Instantly campaigns. and me for up to 10 book calls. I don't charge anymore. It's $250 if it's an hour or 10 hours. It makes sense. So it's whatever you think you really need. I would tell you, like, if you're going to build it, the Octave thing, an Octave is, we send 2 million emails across all of our campaigns every month, Mike. So that's orchestrating 25 and 30 clients. Do I think you can survive without Octave? Absolutely. Do I think there's a benefit? It really is volume driven. I mean, if you're going to send 100,000 emails a month, then you're kind of creeping into the same boat I am, where that's a lot of volume. Do you need Octave if you're going to send 10,000 emails a month?
No, we're ramping up at this phase to be, as long as we can find enough Gmail data, we're probably going to send fucking 10,000 a day weekdays. So that would be whatever, 20,000, 200,000. As long as we have the Gmail data supported. But we have enough domains and infrastructure to kind of ramp to that. Now that we used to send 80,000 a day, and we got good 1% reply rate on that. But now that game's over. So
what do you think about that, Josh, when you hear that? Is that, the Gmail situation? I know you kind of got us hip to the Outlook, confirmed what our suspicions were. So I'm just curious what you think about that scale.
A lot of that's, if you don't mind sending to every business in America that hits a certain size, you have plenty of TAM. I mean, your Outlook dependent heavy ones are your 12-month sales cycle, Fortune 500 type thousand. Those are the companies you're not going to hit very often if you're excluding Outlook. But I can pull 20 million leads a month of people that have just Gmail.
Where do you mentioned, you haven't brought up ZoomInfo once here. For just emailing, are we overpaying per email on ZoomInfo? Does the ZoomInfo value really cell phones?
I don't think their value is even a cell phone. So to be transparent, Mike, I am a paid consultant for ZoomInfo and Apollo, just so you know. They're both very, very good for your enterprise corporate clients who want that type of integration. If you're doing what I'm doing, you're pulling data from all kinds of sources like LinkedIn. You can see on my screen Appify, which is where we're scraping data from a whole variety of sources. You just can't pay ZoomInfo prices and send 2 million emails a month.
Yeah.
So we could teach you.
And they don't really even have really ESP, like that's like a lot.
No, there's no ESP filters. Yeah. For example, on Apollo, you can filter down to technology data. So you can say, companies that use Microsoft or Google, and it's a 95% chance if they're using Microsoft, they have Outlook, right?
Yeah. They were like, oh well, hey, we told them that, and they're like, oh well, hey, use our technologies tab, and let's suppress out anyone using Microsoft, whatever. And I'm like, all right, but I feel like there's a more scientific way to actually know if a domain is just on.
It also wasn't accurate. It also, they're a percentage of the data was.
So we might end up having to kind of to get to that scale, depending, kind of double up on a different data source for Gmail data. But you think, is there a world? I mean, it just makes sense that there's a world that there are 1 million Gmail email accounts in our total addressable market in the United States.
I have zero doubts, especially if you're not like, I'm just going to reach out to directors of marketing to you. If you say, I'm going to reach out to sales, I'm going to reach out to,
we can reach for us, advocates. It's founders and presidents, and then it's marketing departments over 50 employee company size up to maybe 5,000. And then different, we're not going to reach out a marketing coordinator at a 5,000 person company, but you know what I mean? So there is, and a lot of back in the day, it was like, hey, forwarding around and different things. Like, as long as you're not emailing someone completely random, like a director of operations or CFO or something like that, all right. So it sounds like that's really cool to hear. I guess Juan, I feel like the next best step is to you to kind of let's probably get Octave. Let's get fucking play. Let's set up let's set up the general flow. Let's forget all the fucking gimmick shit. I went to like Miami University, so I was like, one of my days, like, hey, let's just use Clay to find everyone with Miami University. It's like, not like the best or the worst, but Anyways, and then probably like get it going, and then one maybe just start by like booking another one of these calls, and then like just keep doing that until we probably will naturally go into like maybe the 2,500 a month
Okay.
situation. I feel like that there's just a overlap for like I'm not right now in the weeds working with Clay every day, and I'm busy, I'm doing other shit. Back in the day, we were all on the cutting edge just because this is my full-time focus. I feel like now if we can just combine in, this guy with his team, and then as long as it's all results oriented, we're like, hey, we're at our 1%. Let's have like 7 calls over the next whatever, and like if these insights are driving us to 1.5, driving his insights into 2, and he can obviously share examples of like real shit he's doing that has like real life application. The other thing I think, like, I like that you're rational to understand that like not everything has some type of fucking offer, and that there are random accounting firms that just do nothing different than anyone that make 10 times more than either of us just because they are good at they have a nice brand and people trust them and stuff. So I think that like a realistic view of to like the positioning of like our services is helpful too, so we're not trying to like talk like a SaaS. You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, Mike, I only have that realization because I sent 100,000 emails for an accounting firm in Australia, so I've firsthand experienced that. So. But to your point, I mean, it's just common sense too. I mean, and that's part of I have a lot of SaaS clients, and in a lot of ways it is selling SaaS, but that's not the same as what I would say is selling more of a commodity like
Yeah,
video.
no, and I think also our company internally, I tell them all the time, or at least the president of the company, that no one likes to think they are a commodity, but I don't give. I mean, like there are great companies that are commodities. I think that sometimes it's better just to talk like a commodity to people that know you're a commodity and are understanding of that, and I think there's more respect and like versus like these eloquent sort of direct response worded bullshit. That's like, all right, dude, you do photography, well, you do this. Just say that, and maybe I like your photography, and I'll work with you. Like, you don't have to like, did you know photos on a website can increase your? It's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Right? Like it's like so. Anyways, all right, Juan, what do you want to take as next steps? I mean, you guys, if you want to keep talking to him, I can pop off. I mean, I think
Well, we only got a couple minutes, so I think I can. I mean, I guess I could start to build that minimum Clay setup for us, and then work in Octave, and then I guess once I build out something that I think could work for us, maybe show it to
yes,
Josh on
let's do
another
that, and
call and
then
take it apart.
let's just follow his flow. No gimmick stuff. Like let's just and then, but and let's just see if.
Does that sound fair to you, Josh, or you think there's a better approach in prep for the next call?
No, I think if you're gonna sign up for Octave to start off, and build yourself a playbook, which I think will be a good experience. It won't take you a lot of time, Juan. And then we'll use that playbook to build stuff out from the choices you made. And the other thing too is don't think you're going to have to build all of these clay tables for scratch. I have thousands of them on, so I'm going to give you ones that are already built, and then say, okay, hey, do you want to use this or not? Here's how to. Part of this, if anything, is you'll save the money on learning how to use clay without spending $5,000 a month using.
Okay, sounds good.
What I'm just curious is like your services all email oriented? Do you do other touch point type of thing, or you just kind of hyper focused on email?
Emails where it leads. Most of the time, it evolves into pretty robust clay type use cases involving CRMs, special plays, booking CTOs and NFL suites, venture capitalist stuff, whatever.
Cool.
That's
Sweet. Well,
that's probably our
wish I met
stronger
you.
skill set.
What'd you do before all this thing? Like, were you were you were you not in the email space, or like, 'cause like a lot of this stuff didn't even exist, I feel like 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I was overseeing 4 agile teams at Farmers Insurance doing data science and automation.
So this was kind of like a timely overlap between data science and email. Just sort of made sense to kind of get into the game. Versus email back then, the email 5, 6 years ago was just kind of more of like a fucking snowshoe. I mean, yeah, all you had to do was snowshoe, set up, and just fucking go. There wasn't, Zoom info was barely, it wasn't even fully, it was like they had not acquired all the little companies yet. So
Yeah, it was just luck. A lot of good timing as I got into the business at the same time AI took off, and I worked in AI before ChatGPT existed. So.
nice. All right, dude, good stuff. We'll get this stuff going, and one, we'll book another call, and let's just try to get this up to a 2.5% reply rate. I think that'd be dope.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
thank you.